out in Hartford, Michigan, where the clay flies high. 3/8 mile of thunder under that big night sky. Since back in 51, we've been tearing up the ground. Engine screaming, tire sliding, best damn sound around. Pack the cooler, grab the kids, head down to the gate. Friday night's calling, yeah, we just can't wait. It's good old dirty family fun at Hartford Speedway, where the real racing gets done. Mud on your boots, smiles on every face, late models and sprints tearing up the place. From grandkids to grandpas, we're all in the stands, cheering side by side in this Michigan land. Good old dirty family fun. Hartford Speedway. Lights come on, the green flag drops with 4 wide into turn 1. Sliding through the corners, chasing that setting sun. Bring the whole crew, kids getting free, cooler in your hand. Nothing beats the roar of the crowd in these hometown grandstands. Dust in the air, hearts beating fast. Memories we're making that forever gonna last. It's good old dirty family fun at Hartford Speedway, where the real racing gets done. Mud on your boots, smiles on every face, waiting models and sprints tearing up the place. From grandkids to grandpas, we're all in the stands, cheering side by side in this Michigan land. Good old dirty family fun. Hartford Speedway. "75 years of heroes in the dirt. Legends on the high side, giving it all its worth. Every Friday night we come alive. This is where the heartbeat of racing thrives. It's good old dirty family fun. Hey, Hartford Speedway, yeah, we're second to none. Mud on your boots, smiles on every face. Come on out Friday, find your place. From grandkids to grandpas, we're all in the stands, raising hell and dust in this Michigan land. Good old dirty family fun.
And it is the Monday Night Rewind. Lewis here with Topo Racing Media. Shortly joining me will be Buju, and then already in the staging area will be Tim Dibble. So again, like, share, get this out. Don't mind the thunder rolling in the background here along Lake Michigan, but like I said tonight, we have Tim Dibble. He is already in the staging area, ready to go. Leah made an appearance. Excited to see her. I know they just had monster trucks over the weekend, and then just as another reminder for upcoming guests, we're booked out through the month of May. We're going to have Rich Bold joining us next week first at 7:05, followed by Joel, announcer at Kalamazoo Speedway, also does the mini wedges at Kalamazoo. And then from Grundy County, we have Brian, who will be joining us. He's the race director down there, also former racer at Ileana Motor Speedway and flagger at South Bend Motor Speedway. And then coming up on May 25th, again, we know it's Memorial Day, but we're going to go forward as is on a Monday, and we have one of the best announcers that you'll find in the country, who's done it all on the biggest stage anywhere and everywhere. Will Greenwell will be joining us. And then don't forget, it's not Thursday Night Thunder, Buju, but behind that, I have thunder rolling right here along Lake Michigan and Southwest Michigan. So don't mind the thunder, but we do have Thursday Night Throttle that you can throttle up with us. We have a lot of double headers this weekend that we'll be talking about between Grundy and M40, obviously New Paris and Kalamazoo, hopefully Kalamazoo, right? It's been a few weeks. So again, it's just lots to do, lots going on, lots to see, Buju. So how are you doing tonight?
Fantastic. We've had the thunder rolling in and out of here as well, so you might hear it in South Bend as well as up in Michigan. I also had a squirrel jump from the tree to the top of the garage roof, and I about jumped out of my skin 5 minutes before I joined the thing here. But otherwise, pretty good. Pretty good.
What do you think of our Star Wars themed
I
opening?
dug, I dug it. I'm a big Star Wars nerd myself. I got the shirt on for the listeners who might not be watching. Yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd, so I enjoy May the 4th. I kind of forgot about it, to be honest, but yeah.
I've only been using the pun for several weeks now that, maybe it'll be with us, or some people might need a fifth tomorrow. Um, but yeah, no, I thought, well, let's be a little creative, so I went with a little different graphic package tonight where, just trying things a little different. And I thought, well, why not? Let's try something different. And, I finished that not too long before the show, by the way, because the formatting wasn't going the way that I wanted it to. So I had a lot of different words to say about that. But until then, I thought, well, it came out pretty nice. So then it's finding music that Facebook and YouTube won't dislike and try to claim and all that kind of deal, because ain't nobody got time for that. So I already plagiarized myself last Thursday, as I said. So we learned, I taught people then that you can actually self-plagiarize yourself if you didn't know that. So again, 64 hours of my life one time talking about plagiarism. I will back to that. But other than that, I know we have Tim coming up, and then he's our only guest tonight. So we'll be bringing him on shortly, and then we'll talk. You and I were at the same place on Saturday at New Paris, and so I figure when we're done with Tim and we've talked about it, not only his racing career, but being an owner at Hartford, what got him into that, and everything from there, then we can dissect a little bit of the weekend over at New Paris and what we both saw. I know you saw it from a different angle than I did, but other than that, how's your Monday going overall?
Not too bad, not too bad. Too far, a little too far away from racing for my liking. A little bit too much of a chance in the rain or chance of rain in the forecast on Friday for my liking. So that's dragging the mood down a little bit, but we got time for that to improve. And we're only at 30%, so
Yeah.
optimism. 70% chance of not raining.
Well, what, the third Monday in a row that we've come on and it's been storming or something
Yeah,
like that?
at least the third. It feels like the eighth, but I don't know. It might be more than three.
We've been pretty consistent here, so I don't know what I think about that. But other than that, for the comments, I do want. There was earlier I posted Ray Roberts racing in the Hornets at New Paris, and it started a question that Matt McGee had typed in there that he races with both feet, and I've seen other people who don't race with both feet. So for those racers who are joining us, 1 foot or 2 foot, what do you think? So you can put that in the comments as we go on. But other than that, if you're ready, it is 7:05. Are you ready to bring on Tim?
Do it.
All right. So again, joining us from Hartford Speedway, we have Tim Dibble. Welcome, Tim.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Hey, we get to talk about racing again. So
2 feet.
2 feet.
Got to be
Well,
two.
Gotta
and
be two.
So what all have you raced? So let's just kind of like jump right in there. So because I know there's a picture in the concession barn of you racing. It looks like what would you call it, like a street stock at the time, or pro stock or something like that?
Pure stocks, they
Pure
called them back then. I mean, I started out doing enduros and that kind of stuff, and then went through the whole demolition derby scene, and then started, that's when the year that Jim Borden bought the track, they started this pure stock class. And so I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna build a race car. I'm tired of demolition derby every week, dragging something home that you got to fix or junk or start over or whatever. So that's where it started, started racing pure stocks that first year. 2008, I believe.
Oh, 2000. Yeah, because that photo I think is what, 2010. No, I'd have to look at it. But when I get my chicken strips and I'm putting the barbecue in, you're right above the barbecue sauce. Yeah. I'm like, everybody has to look at that photo if you're getting, ranch or barbecue when you're in that pit concession. So it's right there. And so I have to look again, because I always like looking at that photo. It's always those throwbacks, and you don't see a lot of racetracks that have throwback photos, anywhere around the facility. So it's pretty cool that you guys at least have in spots memorabilia that kind of shows some of the history.
2008, that seems like yesterday, but that's how long ago it was. Started out, didn't know nothing about dirt tracks racing. First dirt track I ever raced on, actually, and it was the half mile then, even bigger, so. But ended up, not bragging, but I ended up winning the championship that year, which I knew absolutely nothing about points or anything. I was just out there on a week-to-week racing deal. And finally, the guy that was helping me about 3/4 of the way through the season says, "Hey, you're leading the points." And I'm like, "What's that mean? What?" He's like, "Well, you could be the track champion in the pure stocks." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." I didn't know what the heck it was. I just was racing, but ended up winning the championship that year, and then jumped up to factory stocks and battled them for a while, and then decided I wanted to own the place.
That's where that's why I didn't want to schedule a guest behind you, because we have so much that we could really dive into from your racing career and highlights from your racing career and different memories and that sort of deal, to then why did you want to own a racetrack, and then and obviously now this is going on year 14, I think, for you guys. 13 or 14. Yeah, 13. So and it wasn't all that long ago that we weren't sure, if you'd get to 13 years, just because of, life and all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. So, just the path that you guys have gone on.
I had a 5-year plan, but that
it just advances. It's like, coaching contracts, they just add 3 years at a time and then fire that coach anyways. But, and then pay him, $58 million to sit at home. But obviously you're not going to get $58 million to sit at home. So, you just extend that. And, so yeah, there's just so much that we can dive into. And I know for like Buju, I think he's only been to Hartford once. So this is a big, opportunity for him to get to know you too, and what you represent and who you are. So kind of up to you. Where do you want to start?
Ask me anything you want to know.
So let's start with, you said you did enduros and demolition derby. So what got you into that? And then if you even want to let people know like what you used to do, professionally, even before that too, with, keeping you in stitches and, and doing all the.
All through high school, I actually worked for an ice company, an ice service, and delivered ice and stuff. And then had a Tom's potato chip route, and I delivered Pepsi a little bit, and, just different stuff. But are you guys there? I lost you.
Oh, yeah, no,
we're here.
We were. Okay. Sometimes we cheat to take a drink really quick. Oh. Of water, but YouTube sometimes will flag it still and say, "We saw you drinking something," and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? It's water." It even says, I don't want to put it on there, but it says Aquafina, but it's like a promotion advertising thing. Gotcha. So sometimes we cheat a little bit, and I go full screen so that we can get a drink of something while the guest is talking. So that's a little.
I've always been a gearhead, even as a kid. I'll call it. We had dirt bikes and all that stuff, and just back then you could work on stuff, lawnmowers, go-karts, whatever, you know what I mean? So we were always, me and my buddies were always screwing around in the garage with something, and then had a Camaro when I was in high school, and, and so it was cammed up and just always kind of been a motor guy or whatever, sports car guy. And then, like I said, started in the enduros. There was about 15 people around here where I live in Bainbridge that were doing enduros at Kalamazoo. That's when the enduros were just huge, $10,000 to win. Some of them were, and I mean, cars lined 4 wide from the front to the back, all the way around the track. That's when enduros were like humongous. I don't know if Lewis, if you were involved in racing then or not, or either one of you, but yeah, I mean, it was Kalamazoo was the enduro capital. It was. But then life happens, and I met my wife, ex-wife now, and got married and had kids and blah blah blah, and then started when my girls got a little older. That's when I started doing demolition derbies just at the fairs and all that kind of stuff, and then got divorced, and that's the year I said I'm gonna build a race car. I wanted one forever, and Hartford started that class, which was semi-economical. So went for it. But so that's pretty much the racing side of it.
And then how many championships was that? The one is that the
I
only
just the one that first year
championship? But I mean, that's like, do you almost retire after that, right? You come right out of the gate. First year, you're like, hey, I got a championship.
Oh yeah, I thought this dirt track racing, nothing to it. So then I moved up to a factory stock, and then I got a little bit of a lesson. But still was competitive in that, but never championship or whatever. But loved it. But
so then, what was the for you as a driver then making that move? For those who may not know, because classes have changed names over time. You add this or you add that. Now I got to name it something different. So for those who may not know, especially those who are watching who may not know dirt track racing, what would be that biggest adjustment going from like a pure stock to a factory stock? Because were your factory stocks then like what would have been evolutions to like your stock cars before you?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't near what these guys have now. They were faster and obviously more money, but they weren't near the pieces of equipment that these guys got now. These stock cars are basically almost modifieds with a body on them. They're crazy, but they were a lot faster than the pure stock, and so, but I think that's what killed the class is it just kept getting out of hand, eventually, and guys couldn't afford to do it. And, just like racing in general, unfortunately.
Oh, I just saw something in the comments because I kind of cut everyone's face with this, but Joel typed a thing here, so I do want to read it. I was looking while you were talking and just to kind of pull in, because this is something we'll definitely talk about tonight, but I didn't want to lose it, Buju, in the comment area where it says, true story, Tim and Lee are the reason I am so passionate about local short track racing. They were so kind to a dumb car part salesman 10, 11 years ago. So welcoming, so nice. Good, dirty, clean, family fun. 10 years ago, never would have dreamed I'd be this involved in racing. Thank you. So again, that's from Joel Aru, who, is our announcer at Kalamazoo now. But when, we were going to segue into then, you go from racing to then, owning. That's one of the things that you've had people work for you for 13 years now, going on 13 years, who have been very loyal to all that. So, do you think that's something that when you were a race car driver and, you got into this and you want to race, that you saw like how people were treated, and when you took over, you wanted that? Or what kind of influence on how you treat people where you have such a reputation, not only in Michigan, but around the area as one of the top owners and promoters out there?
Well, it's funny. So as I was racing, and then Timmy was born, and I quit racing, and then I actually helped Jim Borden and his family promote the one. I started helping them in the winter a little bit, get things ready. And I was always that guy around the racetrack that said, man, if I owned this, I would do this. Or if I owned it, I would do that. Not downing what they were doing, but, just, I think this could make it better, and I kind of had all these mental notes, and then I helped him that year. And then unfortunately, Jim got brain cancer and passed away. And I went to Becky and JR, and we worked it out. I think they ran it 1 year there, kind of 3 or 4 races for 1 year just to keep it going. And then I kept saying, I want to own that place. I want to own that place. My plan wasn't to own it 13 years ago. My plan was maybe to own it about at my age right now and own it for 5 or 6 years. And because I still had my other business, Keeping You in Stitches, and Leah was cutting hair. And I mean, I told these, and everybody's like, you are nuts. You are nuts. Why? You know what I mean? And I just had it. I wanted it. Leah threatened to divorce me if I owned it. You know what I mean? But thank God she hung with me. You know what I mean? But I mean, overall, it's been good. But so I took those things that I had always remembered and put them into action, and it seems to have worked. We treat everybody fair, or try to treat everybody fair. Leah's up top, I'm on the driver's side. She treats the fans great, and we try to treat the drivers good, and just make it an enjoyable experience for a couple hours. You know what I mean? Driving a race car, you still have that tension and fender banging and arguing in the pits, and maybe even a punch thrown once in a while, but we don't tolerate a lot of that. But still, just try to make these guys and the fans, when they come out, to have an enjoyable experience for 2 or 3 hours. And, that's kind of what we've done, And complaints don't fall on deaf ears with us, and that's the other thing. We're up front. I'm in the pits every night with the guys. You got a problem, come see me, and Leah's right up there with the fans. I mean, I think probably 3/4 of our fans know her, you know what I mean? And it's kind of a relationship, you know what I mean? They know we're there if there's a problem, and, you're not talking to this guy who's the manager of this department down on, which is nice, but also is a lot of extra work for us, but that's kind of how we like it. You know what I mean? I've always said, I don't know how these guys can run a racetrack and not even be there that night for racing, you know what I mean? And count on, which, no offense, there's a lot of good staff out there, but still, I'm not that guy. I can't, I have a lot of great help, and so does she, but still, it's my place, and the buck stops with me, and I want to be the guy that's there if need be, you know what I mean? So that's kind of how it works for us,
Well, and you do so well with that. I mean, I went there for the first time in a long time in 2022. It had been before COVID, before that in 2019 when World of Outlaws were there. But that's something that, you guys welcomed me in on June 10th, 2022. And I was just a nobody. And I still think I'm kind of a nobody, but I'm a bigger nobody than I was then. I mean, I truly had like nobody. And, that's something that you guys gave me an opportunity. But just from the moment that I walked in the gates that first day, I felt like I'd been there forever. Mm-hmm. And there was that vibe from Chris Harry, who I know watches all the time, and just all the staff in general. Anything I asked, I mean, everyone was so helpful. You guys were helpful. And I didn't really know anybody. I mean, I knew Stremmy's, a little bit, but other than that, everyone was new. And so that vibe is just, whether you're on the fan side, and I felt they was that way as a fan, to then on the media side where, it just, everyone looks happy. And then I mean, every time I've been there, I don't see fights. You rarely see arguments even. I mean, it's kind of like a Springport vibe in a way where, everybody figures out how to figure it out. Right. Mm-hmm. And there's no swinging fists or anything. Like, we just, Donnie doesn't put up with that kind of stuff. And I know you don't put up with that kind of stuff. It's a zero tolerance. But, with that, does that sometimes, wear down in a way where, in a good or bad way, where it's like you put so much energy into making sure that everyone is kind of getting what they want, that sometimes you're like, man, I don't know what Tim wants now, because I'm a little exhausted from all of it.
Yeah. It's frustrating at times, because we both work so hard to try to make it good for everybody. And then you still see people complaining, and, and after 13 years, you kind of learn to let that just roll off. But it's still hard, because, these people complain on Facebook or whatever, which we all know Facebook is the devil, kind of, as far as that side of it goes. It's a great information piece for advertising, but it also opens up that complaint forum. But, Hartford Speedway is not this big corporation where you're complaining about, there's 10 executives sitting in an office somewhere that are when you're complaining about us, you know what I mean? So you kind of got to learn to let that roll off your shoulder and go, hey, okay, we had 1,000 people there and we got one person complaining. So, I guess if you consider the odds, that's okay, because unfortunately in the world today, it's hard to make everybody happy. I don't care what you do, you know what I mean? But we sure do try hard, you know what I mean? And if there is a problem, we try to solve it right then and there and go on, but still, sometimes you just can't.
So what do you think, because when we had Leah on a few weeks ago, just before we brought on Megan from like M40, and obviously at M40, they've done a lot to bring that back from the dead. Mm-hmm. And for Leah, we talked a lot about like operations, but then, at the same time, she's not on the track all the time, taking care of like the track like you do. I mean, you're literally investing yourself into that, into the surface itself and the pit area and all that. So, you as an owner, we asked Leah this too. What do you feel is like the biggest challenge when it comes to like the dirt track side of things versus maybe in an asphalt where everyone kind of shows up and the track's like ready to go and ready to do, and dirt's not that way.
No, definitely the track by far is the biggest, and I try so hard every week to make it perfect. And I'm hard on myself. A lot of times there'll be a bump here, a hole there, and I'll be like, everybody like, oh man, it's a good race. And I say, oh yeah, except for that hole in turn 1 or whatever. Oh man, that's character. Don't eat that. Heck, that ain't nothing compared to some of the other places we go. So I'm hard on myself, but I want it to be perfect every night. I want 3 and 4 wide racing if they want to, and I want it smooth and fast and not dusty, which is hard to do in Michigan because it's hard to get decent clay in Michigan. I'm sure it's other places too, but still at the end of the day, it's hard. And so, the track definitely is what kicks my butt every week. And it's different every week. It might rain 3 days this week, and then the next week it's 100 and no rain. And so then you're dealing with this and dealing with, it's definitely different every week getting that thing ready, to try to put on a race. So that's the hardest for me. The rest of it's okay. I have good staff that helps me with stuff on nights before the race. Wednesday, Thursday nights helps me water and all that stuff. So, mowing lawn ain't no big deal. That's a piece of cake, but the track, not so much.
What would you say the range is hour-wise and how much time you spend on track prep in a week?
20 hours probably.
Okay.
By the time you grade it 2 or 3 times and water Wednesday night, water Thursday night, and then all day Friday, getting it ready, keeping it ready. And yeah, at least that, depending on what the weather is and where you're at. And,
Fair enough.
What's this?
It takes probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours to grade it,
Right.
So
I got you.
Well, there's kind of like a science to it, right, Tim? Like, is there, Tony Izzo, I want to say junior, when they were doing not only the Plymouth dirt track, but sometimes they've done that at LaSalle, where they've kind of talked about that. So here in Michigan, we have like a sandy base in our area where, you and I are, it's very sandy because of the dunes. So what kind of, and you don't have to give all your secrets away, right? But what kind of science goes into what an ideal dirt track would be for what you have to work with surface wise?
hell, I don't know. I'm trying something different every week still. Literally, I bought different pieces of equipment to try to make it better. I've done everything, still end up getting about this same result. I haven't had the one night yet where I went, God dang, I finally hit it perfect. You know what I mean? And I'm going to do this next week now, because then what you did the week before might not work for the next week. So
Yep.
There is no secret. You just water it and pack it in and hope that it holds. And, it's hard for us Friday nights because we start at 7:30. That sun is right there at the time we're trying to get the track ready, 4:30, 5:30. The sun is at its hottest point in the summertime. So as fast as you can put water to it, it's about drying, and then if the wind's blowing, that dries it even more. So, it's just kind of, you just fly by the seat of your pants and keep your fingers crossed. And you've been there before. We're out there supposed to start at 7:30 and we're out there at 7:28 and I'm yelling, everybody that's got tires, get out here. We need to, because I put a little too much water on it, so it's just get lucky, or, that's about all I can say. There is no actual science to it.
Is there one time you just totally missed, like, I screwed this up? We're not going to have a good track tonight.
Yeah. Not so much the track at that, but it's like we've had to start 20 minutes late or 25 minutes late because it just won't come in. You're running and running and running, and the humidity's high and it's cloudy. There's no drying power, and you're just, oh man, I put too much water on, and you're trying to get it to be right, and it just won't get there. And then, So, and I hate that. We pride ourselves on starting at 7:30. 7:30. And when I don't like making my fans sit there an extra 25 minutes watching these trucks go around the track. Most people that come to dirt tracks understand that, but still, I don't like that, but so that's probably the worst, is you just put too much water on and then you're just stuck,
Sure.
And there ain't no way to get rid of it besides just keep going around in circles on it.
So, even with that, do you want to give a shout out while we're at it, talking about especially track prep, a shout out to your teammates, who help with that? Because obviously, you know, when I was there in 2022 and I came with the idea for autograph night that, hey, let's get autographs for, you know, autograph cards for
Yeah,
the,
that was cool.
you
I
know,
remember that.
you know, team members, right? Because they're part of the show. I mean, they make the show in a way,
Mhm.
right? And so if you, while we're on, if you want to, you know, on that topic, if you want to give your crew members a shout out and who helps you while you're getting things ready.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Chris, you know Chris.
Yep.
He's been there for I don't even know how many years. He started out as kind of a track helper guy or whatever. Now he's actually the pit steward now. So Bradley has been 13 years with me. I mean, he's one of my old faithfuls. I mean, the guy just comes there every Wednesday, Thursday night, helps, waters, whatever we need. He jumps right in and helps. And Wayne Klaus has been there 13 years with me. You know what I mean? He's same thing, you know, whatever. He's an electrician, so anything I need electrical or whatever, he jumps right in and takes care of it. Jack, I think you know Jack probably. He's my middle of the week guy, helps me mow lawn a little bit and drives around and picks up trash and cigarette butts and all that. And you know, so Greg Merkel shows up early on Fridays, you know, so I couldn't do what I do without them guys. And I always say that, you know, everybody says, oh, Tim and Leah. Well, it's not Tim and Leah. It's the whole team and the whole crew. And, you know, yes, we are the leaders, but, you know, it still takes all those people to make it work. You know, it's funny when you own a racetrack, like, and I'm sure like M40 is probably finding this out right now. You know, when you first buy it, you have a lot of people that want to volunteer and come out and help us paint and all that. Man, you got 30 people coming out there, you know. Well, as the years go on, no offense to them people, but it kind of just dwindles, you know what I mean? And now here you are with your old faithful 4 or 5 guys, you know, and but still, I mean, I understand life happens for people and all that, so I get it, you know, but as time goes on, you kind of lose those volunteer helpers, you know, but so that's the main ones for me anyway. I know Leah's got a good group up there that help her a lot, you know, but that's my main 5.
Well, and like, you know, we kind of open up. I mean, you've kept so many people for 13 years, and that just says a lot about, again, you know, you guys in general, just because you know, you could go to a few tracks. I'm sure you're going to find, you know, 1 or 2, 3 people who have been there for so long, but then it's like such a drop off. And so, I mean, even the staff who I know fans interact with, I mean, always seem helpful, always seem ready to.
It's going to get loud here. There's literally hail the size of quarters falling from the sky right now.
Oh boy! Like,
sitting out here in my garage with the door open, it is hailing like there ain't no tomorrow.
Well, we could tell the storm was coming because you started to lose signal a little bit, and I went, oh, you know, that's what I'm worried about. It's like, are we going to lose? I mean, I have Comcast or whatever they call it now, so I feel I'm good, but I could tell that you could hear the rumble and you could see your image is distorting a little bit. I'm like, it's about to storm there.
Let me get up and shut my door real quick.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I mean, you can hear it. You know, I heard
Yeah.
I thought it was my thunder, but that is his thunder.
Yeah, I had a plane going overhead at the same time, so I was trying to figure out if it was me or him, and I think it was a little bit of both.
And you know, it was. I mean, earlier here it was sunny and raining. I'm like, where did that come from? So, and this isn't even the main stuff. The main stuff's not supposed to come till like 11 tonight. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it made it any quieter or not.
And we could still hear you, but I could tell the storm was coming because your image started to go. I'm like, oh, it's almost there. So
I mean, it is hailing like crazy. I don't know what it's doing where you're at, but it is coming down.
Sunny now, sunny, wet, but sunny now. But anyways, I'm sorry. But it was just. I mean, you got hail. At least it's doing it now and not on Friday, right?
Yeah, right.
So then I know. There's a lot of different questions. I know Buju was writing. So Buju, I know you were writing down some questions. So I want to make sure that you get your questions in too.
We covered some of them already, but touching on something that you kind of talked about a little bit earlier, if there was one question as an owner promoter that you could just answer forever, if you could have it tattooed on your forehead, never have to answer this question again, what would that one be?
Cost to get in every week. No. I guess I don't really know I don't know that one. I mean, you get fielded with so many questions that.
Yeah. Fair enough. There's enough variety, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Leah might.
I try to be real good. I mean, I have a great tech guy, but most people well, that's being so hands-on. They message me about questions about stuff. So I get filled with everything. I'm building a new car. Can I do this? Can I not do that?
Yeah.
So it's never ending,
Yeah, I was thinking of Leah when you asked that question. That
Yeah,
yeah,
Leah said, "Are the races still on?" Yeah, that's
yeah.
Friday morning. That's the big one.
So, well, and you're probably tired of hearing about the half mile, but if you want to talk a little bit about that, decision in a way, like when you guys were running the half mile and then you converted it over, like one, how'd you figure out how you wanted to do the 3/8, like how you wanted to make that, because that's made a wicked half mile into that treacherous turn 3, which until people walk the track, I think it's hard to understand why it becomes like treacherous. But if you want to talk a little bit about, like, we didn't ask Leah this, but the decision behind, like, hey, half mile racing isn't working anymore, and it's not just you. There's tracks in Iowa, there's tracks all over that they actually. There's an article, I think, in the Des Moines paper that said, well, there's a racetrack in Michigan, Hartford Speedway, who did this, and and they cited, like, they're trying to configure it just like yours at a fairground. So you want to talk a little bit about that, and what it was, and how you figured out this is where we turn.
I mean, I guess I don't know what the final thing was. Our car count kept going down and down and down. And at that time, if I knew now what I knew then, or however you want to say that, I probably wouldn't have done it, knowing that all north of me was going to go IMCA and the UMP cars are going to drop off, and different things that at that time, we couldn't get a good car count because to come to Hartford, you had to change gear, you had to change setup and all that. Well, the guy that wanted to come on Friday and then go race at his 3/8 track on Saturday, it wasn't possible for them. I mean, especially the stock car guys and all that. I mean, the modifieds have quick changes and the late models had quick changes, so that's a lot easier for them. But still, and I had a lot of drivers chiming in the track's hard on our engines. I don't want to come. It's too big, and it's, if you shorten the track, we'll be there for sure. And I heard a lot of that stuff, which didn't really hold to be true, but the whole racing scene has changed a lot in the 13 years, so, but at the end of the day, we laid that track out. The way that turn 3 is how I wanted it. I mean, everybody said, oh, that's treacherous turn 3 and blah, 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 blah. But all I heard nonstop was these tracks are too hard on our motors because you just stand on it and go. Well, I wanted to make a corner where they had to at least burp the throttle for a second to get out of it and let the guys behind catch up maybe even a little bit. Or, you have to drive it. You can't just stand on your gas pedal and go around and around and around for 20 laps. You kind of got to drive it, which we've got some guys, these sprint car guys and all that, they have figured it out. They still stand on it wide open all the way around there. It can be done, but that's kind of the way I wanted it, not because I wanted sprint cars to hit the wall in turn 3 or any of that. That wasn't the plan, you know what I mean? But I just wanted something where they had to at least let off the gas for a second, you know what I mean? And I thought that would help, and it has some years. Tighten up in turn 3, and then turn 4 gets really wide to promote slide jobs coming out, especially even because I never moved the flag stand. It's still kind of coming right out of turn 4. So I thought, man, this will promote some slide jobs coming out of turn 4 for the win, which has happened some nights, you know what I mean? So, but at the end of the whole deal, the time and the money on fuel and all that stuff, it's definitely worth shortening it. I know the diehard fans still want to shoot me sometimes, but I get it. The nostalgic fans, I call them, and you know what I mean? But it was to a point, like with the Cyberstock class, I either had to shorten the track or I had to eliminate that class because they were going too fast. The cars were too light. I mean, that last year it was a half mile. I bet we had, I don't even know, 20, 30 cars roll over. I mean, they hit a pebble going through the corner and they're flipping because it was too fast, and so that allowed me to make that better. It also allowed me to do night of destructions because couldn't do them on a half mile. I mean, these guys go fast enough on a 3/8, let alone a trailer race on a half mile track would be horrible. You know what I mean? So it's opened up the door for other things. I don't know if it's made the racing any better, but I think the racing's still great. I mean, I think I've talked to a lot of sprint car fans and they say they can't really tell the difference. They're flying around there just as fast as they used to. You know what I mean? So, because it's so wide, and they like it because they go 3 wide and different stuff, so I think it was the right move.
Well, and World of Outlaws are, I mean, this is this the first time since 2019 that they're coming? Because I know you've had rainouts.
Yes.
But for a World of Outlaw organization to want to come back to Hartford, that has to speak something not only for what you guys do, but for that tour to want to come back. I know this is not the first time that they've tried, right? I mean, other times it's just rained, it's been weird stuff. It's and World of Outlaws, you get one time and that's it. It's hard to reschedule, but
we were excited. I reached out to them last year, and then they already, they make their schedule in August, kind of. I mean, they're already planning the next year. And then this year they contacted me and said, hey, you reached out last year. We'd like to come, which is, they haven't been north of Eldora, in a long, long time. And it's since 2019, probably, they haven't been north of Eldora or, Wisconsin, that's about the closest you could come to see them. So we're pretty excited about that they're coming to Michigan, and coming to us. So that's that's a cool, big deal,
Well, and I know Kalamazoo took the Friday night off because of that, where we have a demolition derby, an old school demolition derby on Saturday, like the traditional that you'd see at a fairground the next day. But, I think our owner at Kalamazoo is going to have once a boxer wants to be there.
Right.
Dirt sprint car racing, which again just shows the power of the World of Outlaws, that it, it tells others, like, we know this game, we're not going head to head with that because we know where everyone will be. Right. So,
which is great. We get along good with Randy, and we get along good with the M40 bunch. We try to help each other as much as we can, so that's nice that these 3 tracks right here can kind of try to work together,
So what goes into the World of Outlaw planning? Like, are you on the hook for that kind of purse, or is that World of Outlaws, or what does that look like for fans?
There's a promoter that does it.
Okay.
So we do track prep and all that. That's all ours and concessions. And then there's a promoter that actually does the World of Outlaw side of it, the purse and all that stuff. He gets all the ticket sales, and that stuff. So that's how it works. It's almost too hard for a little track like us to take on that, to swallow that. It's a great show, but it's expensive.
Yeah. So then, what is the in the time that you've owned it, you've had like late models, you've had stock cars, you've now had Super Troopers, which you've had the healthiest count of Super Troopers to any track so far. So is there a class out there that you wish you could run, or a class that you see at other tracks so you're like, man, I wish we could run that, but it would take this?
Stock cars are near and dear to my heart just because I ran them, and we had a really good stock car field for a lot of years, and we had late models every week at one point in time, and then they just kept dropping off. It was starting to get so expensive for them, and they dropped off. Even like modifieds this year, I'm running mods once. My car count last year just kept dwindling, and I get it. The price of racing and fuel, and I mean, most guys anymore are once a week racer, and they're going to race close to home as they can get. It's not as easy anymore to run here and then there. It's too expensive. Just the price of racing, the car and all that, and not counting fuel and pit passes and everything else. And, so I think that's what's hurting the economy of racing, is guys are just once a week close to home, and that's it. So my modified started dropping, and it just wasn't feasible anymore. So we started Super Troopers. I think this is the 3rd year now. I think I was I think Plymouth ran them, and I don't know, it just took off. You know what I mean? It's an affordable class to race in, and guys jumped into it, and we're doing our best to tech them and keep them fair, and it seems to be working. The Cybers are the same way. I finally opened the rules up on them to run with Andy Jack's rules, just so that way guys could try to get all on the same set, of rules. I was trying for the longest time to keep them pinned down and all that, and it didn't work. So I'm like, heck with it, here you go, But so we're just running the 2 classes, our 2 local classes, and then I have a headliner come in every week at GLSS this Friday, and then the non-wings the next week, and then Andy's running his show the next week with Midwest Dirt and Enduro, and so we're going to see how it works. One late model race with the modifieds. That's the one time I do have them. World of Outlaws, and we have the All Stars coming back again in the fall, and Night of Destructions, and so
We do.
have a good mix.
Pull that up really quick. So Friday, June 5th for World Outlaws.
Mhm.
And we did, did we, Bougie, when we did the preview schedule, I don't think we only did like that first 4. So maybe that's something that we can do, not this week, but next week. We can go back through and do like another month in advance. Now that I think about it, but sorry. But for those who want to know, June 5th. So again, Kalamazoo's not racing that night. I can already tell you. We
Mhm.
took the night off. We have a real demolition derby on Saturday, June 6th. So I think most people are going to be at Hartford on June 5th. But if you want to talk a little bit about how you recruit then traveling series to come and balance out your program. So like, I know you've had a good, great relationship with Great Lakes Super Sprints. I mean, it was almost like Hartford was a home base, there for a little bit till like last year. And, they traveled around a little bit, but now they're coming back more.
Mhm.
So then obviously with Drew Jack, you've had a good relationship. So what's it like to get late model racing? And then even too, like you have UMP modifieds. Have you ever thought about switching over to IMCA? So I know that's a lot in one thing, but if you want
No, I mean, I'll start with modifieds. I have thought about switching to IMCA, but the problem is everybody south of me is UMP.
yeah,
Everybody north of me is IMCA. Well, I-96 runs on Friday nights. I can't see guys driving by I-96 to come race at Hartford, and I get it, the price of fuel and everything. They're like I said, they're going to stay as close to home as they can, or even coming from Crystal, or it's a 3 or 4 hour haul, and that it's just not feasible anymore for people to do that. And unfortunately, us promoters can't pay what needs to be paid because, like everything else, our expenses are going through the roof too. You know what I mean? So late models, there's a couple series out there, the Ironman series, the Hell Tour. I tried to get a Hell Tour race this year and it didn't work out. The Ironman series, I've talked to them a couple times, but I've just kind of figured out I'm just going to do my own thing, and I'm not going to make them run Hoosiers. They can run IMCA tires or Hoosiers, whatever they want, and just try to get 15, 18 of them there and put on a good show for the fans. The fans all say they want late model, but then, I'll have one show, I'll have a good crowd and a nice turnout, but I don't think my track can't support them on a weekly basis anymore. And I get it. They got to get paid a lot of money. I understand. And it costs a lot of money to run them things. So I understand, but so, it's hard for us little tracks to run them weekly. I don't even know who's running them weekly anymore. I think I-96 is, I believe they got them kind of weekly, but otherwise there ain't too many anymore, What else was that? Did that answer all your 14?
Oh yeah, like I know I threw a lot at you at once, but that's where I was thinking. Like it made me think of, because I think there was a track in Michigan, or maybe it was close by, that just switched over to IMCA from UMP because they thought maybe it'll be a little bit better for them to blend in. But as you kind of said, like you can switch that, but that doesn't mean they will come. Now in this area, do you feel like it's a lack of dirt tracks in your specific area that could kind of hurt when you lost Plymouth dirt track? And I know there's not Madairyville, it's Shady Hill, but I mean, I know there's tracks there, but like really you guys are like the only, dirt track in town.
Butler's still UMP, I believe, and us. We're the only two in Michigan, I believe, that are UMP. Okay. Now, I think I-96 is actually UMP late models sanctioned for their late models, but I know their mods are IMCA, and so, I don't know. That's all changed too, because back in the day, you had to be one or the other, and that was it. You couldn't. It was a love-hate relationship. You didn't have both, So yeah. I don't know how that's working now, but good for them that they're doing that, So yeah, I mean, and that's the problem. I'm kind of, and I've said that before, like at the MSPA meeting or whatever, I'm kind of hung out in the middle. You know what I mean? The Indiana guys that used to travel aren't really doing that anymore. I have the lake, which, I can't get cars. Nobody wants to come on 94 around the lake on Friday nights anymore because it's just a zoo, and traffic jams. And so there's a lot of factors playing into what's going on in Hartford, and I don't think it's a sanctioning body. I just think it's life,
Yep. Well, that's where, when we think of asphalt tracks, Boujou, right? You can, with even where I am, you can go to how many different asphalt tracks within a 2-hour drive. But when it comes to a dirt track, all of a sudden
Yeah.
that number is severely limited, right? So that's why, I was wondering, for fans who might be wondering the same, like, what are some of the challenges that like you might be facing at Hartford that sometimes maybe like those in the stands don't think about, right? Because it doesn't impact them. They pay, $15 ticket to get in, and well, I wish there were late models, or like, what do you want to see on the schedule this
Right.
year? Late model sprints. But it's like, yes, but it takes finances to make that happen. It takes butts and seats to make that happen, and not just a couple butts. Not just the diehards. We need thousands of people to make that happen, and to at least stay afloat, right? So I think
I mean,
sometimes,
I always say that, and I'm not, I mean, and anybody that owns a racetrack takes this on themselves. I mean, it's nobody's responsibility. It's nobody's problems, but people don't understand the expenses that it takes to run one of them or to open one in the spring or whatever. I mean, I always say this, a ticket for a race should be $40, to get in. And all of us promoters are trying to stay at that $15, $20 range, and it's so hard to do that. Everybody says, well, maybe you need to go a little cheaper. Well, that's okay if I knew there was going to be 1,000 more fans there, but then you go cheaper and that same little crowd shows up. Now you're really in hot water. You can't. So, that's the biggest issue, I think, is people just don't understand my insurance goes up 30%. The ambulance goes up 20% to this, to that, which I'm not crying because everybody's household bills and everything are going. I get it, but the amount of money that it takes to run a racetrack is phenomenal that people don't understand, and then you got your purses and all that. And heck yeah, let's have the late miles, $10,000 to win. Well, $10,000, holy crap. That's a lot of money, especially when you go down through the 20 guys want to get paid, so, but I think that's the biggest thing is just the money relationship with what people,
Now, is there a class that you like watching yourself when you get a chance to actually do that? What's your favorite one to watch?
I mean, unfortunately, I really love the mods. I like watching the mods. They put on a hell of a show, and I hated to do what I had to do this year to get them down to one race. But man, when we used to have 20 mods there, that was a heck of a race. Late models are cool. Sprint cars are great. You know what I mean? But the mods was probably one of and the stock cars back when we had a good count of them, and it was still stock cars, not the stock cars we have now. It was good racing, and anybody could almost win that night, and wasn't about money. It was about, ingenuity and racing and, but probably the mods. I mean, I'm going to miss watching the mods. I really like them. They're kind of out of control all the time, almost.
Yeah. Buju, that's it. When you went there, I don't think mods were racing that night.
I think they were on the card that night. Yeah.
The mods, they put on an awesome. I mean, my dirt late models are mine. If you put a dirt late model in front of me and you put an asphalt late model in front of me from an asphalt track, I'm gonna go to the dirt side because that's where I want to watch late model racing. Although I love the Outlaws. I mean, I love that, but I love them because they look like a dirt late model. So if they just look like a template, I don't know how I feel about it. I probably wouldn't sway me any one way.
Sure.
I just like the wedge nose. I mean, that's back to my Santa Fe days. What about you? What's your, if you got a chance to watch dirt racing, what would you want?
I'm a late model guy myself too, but I will say I saw when we went to Kokomo, the street stocks down there put on a really good race as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about then how you've been, creative, because you, like many other tracks, like you're in the entertainment business as much as you're in the racing business, you're in the entertainment. And so you guys are one of the few dirt tracks, because others are starting to try it, right? You're one of the few dirt tracks that does Night of Destruction. So you want to talk a little bit about not only how you keep fans invested in that and coming, but then how you came up with the Race of Doom.
Well, Night of Destruction kind of came because I was from the demolition derby world, you know what I mean? And once again, everybody said, you're nuts. You can't do this on dirt. You know what I mean? And I had a guy working for me at that time, and he's like, there is no way you're ever going to do this, and I'm like, yeah, we're going to try it, and I think the first one I did, if I remember right, we had 30 cars there and the crowd was okay, you know what I mean? And we just kind of kept growing it and adding stuff to it, monster trucks. And then every time we try to come up with something goofy or different, you know what I mean? And people seem to love it. And we try to put on a good show, whether it be, I mean, the crashing and smashing and the drivers, that's second to none. But then, you know, we try to add the mini bike race or the chicken race or the what, you know, you never know what we got up our sleeve. Race of Doom, I don't even know. I mean, that just kind of, I ended up buying a bus from a neighbor guy here, and we wanted to buy a bunch of buses and do bus races like everybody else does. But then, you know, buses have gotten really crazy on price. And I don't know, we were just sitting around under the thing there talking about, let's do this and let's do that and let's throw stuff out of it. Let's put fireworks on it. I mean, and it just one thing led to another. And, you know, now we've just done different stuff every year with it, with the fog or smoke or foam machine and watermelons coming out of it. And, you know, pumpkins coming out of it. And I don't know, just whatever kind of crazy stuff we can come up with, you know, to make it cool.
And now it's a haunted bus at times too, you know, that, you know, and that came something that when Leah and I were talking, not last year, but the year before, when I think the first Halloween one was, and it had been rain out, I said, well, what if you did something like that? You know, had like a haunted bus tour. And I think that's what I want to say it was my idea, because I'm sure it was already being talked about, but you know, it's like, hey, you could do this and this. And then, you know, I mean, it turned out really cool, and fans seem to really enjoy that. They enjoy that little, you know, trick, or it's not trick, I guess you can't call it anymore, but trunk or treating, you know, you could do there. And so, I mean, that's turned out to be, aside from New Paris, that's turned out to be my favorite Night of Destruction night, is that October one at Hartford, just because it's like a festival in a way.
And we always try to do stuff for the kids. You know, I mean, we have the foam party, the one, and we do the free monster truck rides for one. And, you know, we try to always come up with something. We do bounce houses at times for the kids. And, you know, we always try to make it a fun outing for the kids, you know, plus the demolition side of it. But, you know, I mean, other stuff too that they can enjoy. I mean, we always do the monster truck rides, but the 1 week we do them free. And one time we do fireworks after, you know, I mean, nice fireworks show. So, you know, I don't know. We just try to make it exciting and fun for the families that come out for $20. You know what I mean? You can't hardly do anything for that anymore, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, and I definitely, if we have a quick pause really quick, I see a lot of comments coming in, but definitely if you guys have questions for Tim, I know I want to respect your time, and we've had you for almost an hour. So I know Tim and not Tim, Timmy and Leah are holding down the track with Brad and everything. So you never know what's going on over there. But, you know, she sent me a text saying, just so you know. And so I want to respect your time, but that's where I appreciate you taking it. So if anyone has questions for Tim that you want us to ask or that we haven't asked yet, you know, throw them in there. So I see a lot of people are just commenting, you know, on how well the show is, how much they appreciate the best fireworks around, which your fireworks, man, they get better every year. And so when I was making that hype video, when you called with that project, when I make transitions, I always like using fireworks. It's kind of like my thing. And I'm like, oh, there's a big boom there, and there's a big boom there, and there's a big fireball there. And that's something that while I'm scrolling, if you want to talk about at your Night of Destruction, you had a truck chasing you down. You know, I think it was 2 years ago now, that you were in the infield, and you know, you had a truck coming. So if you want to tell people a little bit about that and what was going through your head as all of a sudden there's a truck.
I can't think. I think it was the backwards race.
It was, yeah.
And I was standing where I always stand. We have 4 people around the track with red flags and green flags or whatever. And this girl hit the wall. I seen her hit the wall. She backed right into it, wide open. And she hit the wall and bounced off of it and was coming straight at me, wide open. And I'm like, there ain't no way this wall is stopping her. So I just took off running. And sure enough, she hit the wall, up and over she went. And it was funny because I ran away. You know, at the time, you don't think nothing about it. You're like, oh, phew, we got out of the way of that one, you know. And I walked over to her, and she's like, I don't know what happened. I wasn't pushing any pedals or anything. It was just going. And I'm like, yeah, I need the throttle. So when she hit the wall the first time, the throttle must have stuck, and she just come right across the track wide open and hit that, which luckily you've seen it. And she ended up in between the light pole and the wall, because she was probably heading for the pond if that wouldn't have happened wide open. You know, she probably almost made it down there, you know, but no, that was it. It was, you got to kind of, if you're in the infield, keep your eyes open on Night of Destruction, because you never know what's coming, you know, trailers flying at you or whatever.
I should post that again. It's been a while since that was posted, but I mean, Bougie, I don't know if you saw it, but she like literally parallel parked. Like perfect. You know, if you were downtown and, you know, with old school downtown parallel, I mean, she's like perfect in this box, and the truck fit just between the wall and the light, and I didn't see it, but the crowd was reacting to it because I was somewhere else, because there's a lot of stuff that happens, you know, in these night instructions that I'm like, I can't catch it all. There's no way. But then someone said what happened. I just so happened to have a GoPro down on the fence facing, you know, when they come out, because of a stunt that Kevin Mann was doing, or excuse me, Superman was doing. That, it just so happened to catch Tim on the run. I had to zoom it in, but I'm like, damn, you know, because I did not see what happened, and that was crazy. That
it would. I mean, right where I was standing, she would. I mean, thank God I was paying attention, or she would have hit me. I mean, or flew over me. That's high as she went in the air. You know what I mean? So I was being watched over that night.
Have you had a car end up in the pond at all in the time that you guys have had the pond there?
Nope. Once again, backwards race, kind of jumped the wall right in the middle of 3 and 4 and went down the hill a little bit, but stopped right. They didn't make it, you know, now. And it's really shallow around the edges, so it's not like it's a 20-foot drop off, you know what I mean? So even if they did hit it, they'd stop, you know, but.
Yeah, that I've always wondered that too, because the pond was there before my time, and I'm like, I wonder, you know, you just think like when crazy happens, but and kind of think about, you know, fans in the stands, and then the excitement and the way you guys run the program, and 7:30, right, highlighting some things you've talked about tonight. Joel, again, he's been I don't know, he's just typing away over there, but which I appreciate, like, keep going. But and Rick Nick is in there, you know. Huge shout out to Rick Nick. I know Accent Roofing does so much for so many people, drivers and tracks and all that. But obviously you were at the promoters meeting, and they talked a little bit with PRI. They talked about the right to race bill. So he's asking, and he says, of course, you could be PC in this way. But, you know, how are your neighbors? So like lots of tracks have had issues with their neighbors. You know, Kalamazoo has had battles in the past and that kind of deal. But, you know, for Hartford, because you're literally in the neighborhood, you know, and there's a train track there too, so there's already some noise that goes on that. But you know, how has it been with having, I mean, literally houses right behind the track?
You know, it's knock on wood, we've had very little problems. I mean, we try, if the neighbors want to get in, of course, we honor that. You know, I try to start at 7:30. I try to be done by 10:30. You know, and Saturday mornings, Jack, my guy there, he goes around and picks up all the little trash. If there's anything in their yards, we try to accommodate the neighbors the best we can. It's funny you should say that, because somebody there, we have a Facebook page called Hartford Happenings, and somebody just posted on there. For some reason, there's a big kick about getting chickens in the city.
Oh,
and somebody, their post in big letters was, "Good Lord, we live by a racetrack. How come we can't have chickens in the city?" You know, I'm like, oh, just leave the racetrack on.
Keep us out of it.
Yeah, right. But I mean, the track's been there. This is 75 years of racing. So unless you're 80 plus years old or more, you chose to live by a racetrack. You know, I mean, it didn't just evolve, you know, so luckily we have not too many problems. You know, I mean, I try to follow all the rules. We help people in the city with different things, and, you know, we're trying to be a good sponsor and good neighbor and get along. So far, so good.
Chicken races. That's what I heard. Chicken races coming to Hartford Speedway.
Yeah, there you go. Chicken race.
Well, with the chicken tenders that Leah buys, it might as well be a damn chicken, you know, because that's why, I mean, Boujou, have you had their chicken tenders?
So this was my next question. This is the one question we hadn't covered yet. If you had to recommend one concession item at the Hartford Speedway, what would it be? Everybody
likes the chicken tenders. I mean,
maybe it sounds like they need chickens in town then, Tim.
Yeah. You know, we get slammed, you know, and that's what people don't understand. You know, sometimes we feed more people in a 3-hour deal than a lot of restaurants feed in a week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, because that's Leah's side of the fence. That's not my side of the fence. But I'm always like, you know, why don't we try this, or, you know, walking taco or whatever. And, you know, she always says, man, people just love the chicken, and they love the French fries, and they love the cheeseburgers and the hot dogs, and nobody's asking for anything different. But I'm always like, well, maybe we should try something just to give them a different option. You know what I mean? But so far, what we do is good, and keeps it to where we can almost keep up. You know, I mean, you start getting too many options in there, and then you got people standing in line for an hour, and that causes grief. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, chicken tenders definitely is the home run.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like, if I had to be paid in anything, just I've joked in past, just pay me in chicken.
Yeah.
Chicken breast, because I mean, Bougie, they're like this big. I mean, they
Yeah.
are like,
I think I did have them when I was there, but details are fuzzy. I do love the self-serve concession, though. I'm a big fan of those at racetracks. I love the self-serve.
Yeah, that works out really good.
It does.
Yeah.
so then, now I got sidetracked on chicken strips.
Yeah, we're talking about food.
And I was going to ask too, you've talked about the schedule, you talked about what's coming up for this year. When you look at the schedule, other than World of Outlaws, what's an event that you're looking forward to maybe most out of all of them?
I mean, I like 4th of July is nice because I like the fireworks, and I like when people come to see the fireworks and all that. That's a good one. I mean, I like the All-Stars. They put on a good race. I like all of them. The sprint car, GLSS puts on a hell of a show. I mean, them guys are great for 360s. They are great, phenomenal. It's always a good race. We got a couple more non-wing races this year, so that's kind of cool. Hartford it's not a Kokomo as far as non-wing racing goes, but they still can put on a pretty good show around there. So we went back and tried them some, and there's a new group coming, actually. I think it's called the American Sprint Car Series. Non-wing group. So I mean, I don't know. I like all of them. They're, unfortunately, when you do this forever, you kind of just, I don't know, like Night of Destructions. I remember when we used to go to South Bend and watch them. Man, you had a good time, and it was a blast and all that. And then you start hosting them and you're putting them on so much and all that. It's kind of like, I'm not going to say you get sour to it, but it's a whole different thing. You know what I mean? So I like all the racing. Racing's racing, and it's good. And if I like to see a good night of racing, you know what I mean? I don't think anyone's my favorite, but man, when you got sprint cars flying around there 3 wide and they're passing each other and all that, I mean, that's cool. You know what I mean? So I guess that would be my answer for that. And then I love it when the kids are there, and there's nothing better than like a Night of Destruction or at the end of the fireworks when you're down on the infield and the whole place cheers. You know what I mean? And it kind of is like, man, all the bad stuff that happened this week or the last couple of weeks, right there, that made it worth it. I've made all these people happy, and so that kind of is the driving force.
Well, that's where I was going to then leave with that is, what's your favorite memory that you've had, whether that be from your time racing or from, being an owner, like a moment that just stands out to you, or like, this is why we do it, or this is why, I wanted to buy a racetrack, or something that stands out to you. And I know there's been a lot. I mean, in 12, 13 years,
I mean,
there's a lot of memories.
There's so many. I mean, I can't even begin where to start. We did that project there where that guy came and Leah did that, and that was a huge hit. And I mean, the stuff she does is probably more, I mean, kids riding in the pace car, and we do a lot of stuff for special needs kids, and we try to get them in the pace car, and all that kind of stuff is good. We've kind of made the racetrack is a racetrack, but she especially has kind of made it a tool to make people's life better. You know what I mean? Whatever she can do to, be it sit in the skybox for a night and watch racing, or, different stuff like that. The racing side of it, I mean, there's a couple that probably stand out. I can remember back in the day, Dustin Daggett and Ryan Rule racing, and they were going for Dustin's 100th win at the track, and Mr. Mott was still alive, and I mean, they were racing side by side, and I mean, it was just crazy, slide jobbing each other. I mean, and Dustin did end up winning that night. He got his 100th win at Hartford. I mean, that was like a cool memory that I have, and then you got Ryan Rule the next year won and proposed to his wife on the winner's circle. I mean, just stuff like that. There's so many things that have happened there that's cool, that you can't, I don't know, I can't pick one, but it's never ending.
Which is a good thing, right? Like, that
yes,
there are.
It is. Yes.
Think of like Andy Barr, when he won for the first time in 2022, that stock car race, when he came, and, that, I think that was your opening night. I want to say that was June 10th that he won that night. I know just so many people were happy for him and doing that. And so, that's where, like, that's one of mine that kind of stands out in my time at Hartford, is like, just seeing that, it's like, man, this is what this sport is supposed to be about, right? Is these kind of moments, these kind of memories. And I'm lucky I get to capture a lot of those at different tracks and different things, but that bar one still stands out to me even to this day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it looks like Leah is saying World of Outlaws. I think they're seeing she's saying King of Michigan Run Rule. And wasn't Leah in the victory lane after someone won when they screened or FaceTimed her to wish her happy birthday or something like that? And wasn't Ryan on the other side of the phone? I'm trying to remember. There's a picture I have Woody's.
I can't remember how that happened. I don't know if it was COVID and she wasn't there and they did something and they had little Ryan Rule faces and whatever. I can't remember. That's her favorite driver is Ryan Rule. I mean, I'm not going to. Yeah, I won't beat her in the bush. That's her favorite sprint car driver.
So she has a little pulling interest when the sprints come around, right? But I came across, because for National Compacts, I'm uploading a lot of Woody's photos. Drew is having me move a lot of Woody's photos from National Compacts and Midwest over to my website. And the one came up where Leah's in victory lane and they have the phone. I'm like, I remember that night. And I want to say that was like 2022 or 2023. But that was pretty cool to have that kind of moment where I know she wasn't expecting it, but it's like just to see her face light up. That was a cool moment too. So again, it's just, you guys create a lot of memories for so many different people. So with that, Bougie, are there any other questions that you have? Because like I said, I feel like I've stolen some of yours.
You did. You stole a couple of mine, so we covered all my questions.
So someone did ask, I won't. So what kind of car for like compacts? Like you said, you opened up the rules so that you kind of align with Midwest Compacts and all that. So what kind of cyber stock, let's say that, what kind of cyber stock model works out there? Like what's a car that if someone brings that out, whether it's a Ford or a Chevy or whatever, that you're like, that just seems to do the best on your track?
I still think the Hondas are probably these guys are messing with them Honda motors. They're built to be messed with. I think that's probably the best you're going to get is a Honda. I know some guys are messing with what the heck is it? I don't know, but the Honda stands out as far as the go-to car to be fast.
Yeah, that's because it was Joel. Like I said, Joel has been, he's typed probably 20 comments easily, and I'm trying to keep up with all of them. And so, Kia. Oh,
yeah. You wanted to bring out the Kia Soul.
He might bounce around in that though.
He might do more than bounce.
There was a couple of Kias. I remember we actually got one for a night of destruction, and that thing would run pretty. I mean, there are a couple of Kias, and nobody's really racing them too much. Cavalier, that's another thing that a lot of guys run Cavaliers, and
I know Ryan Crocker did well with the Cavalier out there.
Yes, that is correct. But anything works. It's just how far you want to go with it. If you want to run as a normal Friday night, everything works. But if you want to run with Midwest, then you got to start throwing some money at it. We actually allow V6s at Hartford, so that's a lot of guys have the V6s, 3800s and all that, and they run pretty good with them.
Well, that's what was going to make me think when Bougie was doing the money thing, and that's what made me think when you started doing that. My question was, now that we're closer to the season, so when we had Leah on, we were still in winter, but now that we're closer, who's joined on as sponsors this year for the racetrack that you also want to give like a shout out to? Because we know in this era, I just know the difficulties that other tracks have had in getting sponsors and seeking sponsorship and doing that. So who's helping to support Hartford this year?
I mean, I agree. It's getting tough anymore. Obviously, of course, Lane and All Star is number one. They help us all tracks. I mean, they're my neighbor. Obviously, I'm lucky with that. They're right around the corner from me. But it's never ending the things they do to help racetracks and us. So Lane in that. We have 3 sponsors: Boss Concrete, CNR out on a limb. He's a tree guy, and can't think who the last one is that sponsors our Night of Destruction. Oh, Four Winds Casino. We've partnered with Four Winds, and they help us quite a bit. So that's a good deal. Our our local honor credit union helps us. They help with the fireworks and stuff. So, that's the big ones. And I mean, I can't think how many billboards we got down there, but if I'm missing one, I'm sorry. But we probably have 20 good ones that come back every year and help. So,
and Leah was dropping a few of them in here too. Jeremiah Borden, BOS Concrete, CNR, Four Winds. Is Accent Roofing a part of it? I see Rick Nick keeps saying Accent Roofing. Is he part of that at Hartford? I don't know. I kept seeing. I'm like, I don't want to leave Rick Nick out because, like I said, I know he does so much for not only drivers but Drew Jack. He does a huge force. So I was just seeing that. So I'm like, if he was on there, I didn't want to miss that. But then too, this was the other one I was thinking of, Buju, because I got distracted by the chicken strips. I'm going to be honest. But anyways. I know a picture was posted the other day before the monster trucks, and I know you did this last fall into the winter where you got fresh clay. Did you do the whole track, or did you just do
just 3 and 4? Just 3 and 4. It's kind of a test. This is people are going to freak out. It's actually like black clay.
I mean, it's very different.
Yeah, and so I kind of want to just do a small area first before I went and covered the whole track to see how it's going to work. I mean, right now, I hate to say it, but it's fighting me because of all this rain we've had. And, when you put new clay down in the fall even, and then it don't have a chance to settle. And now we've had 10 inches of rain in April and it's raining tonight. And I mean, so I'm struggling to get it set to race this Friday, but it should be all right as long as Mother Nature quits raining here, hopefully for the rest of the week. But it's kind of a tester to see because it seems like really nice clay, but it's different than what I'm used to as far as brown. It's darker, like a black color. And so we're going to try it in 3 and 4 and see what happens. And then potentially I have a source I can get enough to do the whole track. But, that's pretty risky when you're not familiar with what you're putting on. You don't want to stick it on the whole track and it don't work. And then you're like, oh, now what am I going to do? Yeah.
Can't just take that all off again, right?
I don't think I want to do that.
It's a lot more work. So then for people who may not understand that, because again, like you go to an asphalt track, the asphalt track's there 24/7. It doesn't change really. I mean, you might you might brush off the rubber from the week before, the rocks or whatever. So where does a dirt track get their clay? Where does a dirt track like Hartford, where do you source your, to put it back on?
Any place you can find it as close as possible. I mean, most people want to give you the clay anymore. They just want to dig a pond or whatever, and they want to get rid of it. But, the trucking, unfortunately, is the hard part, getting it there and then the bulldozer to get it leveled out. And, you try to make it as quick as possible project, but and it's hard to find good clay. This black stuff, like I said, is a guy dug a pond and this is what he had. And he's like, try this because I'm going to dig this other pond over here. And if this works, I'm going to have enough to probably do your whole track. And I'm like, okay, well, let me try it and see. But luckily he's 3 miles from the racetrack. So it's a close haul, so we'll see how it works. It's either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. And I might be out there scraping it off before it's over, but I hope not.
Well, and I know that, I mean, that 3-4, I mean, generally speaking, that's where all the action's going to take place. So it's probably, it's probably a good spot to test it first because that's where, I mean, if you go to race there, that's where it's going to happen. I mean, 1 and 2 sometimes gets exciting, but 3 and 4 is where, if things are going to hit the fan, that's where it's going to hit the fan.
I trickled a couple dump truck loads in last year, just in a couple spots to see how it would hold up, and it seemed to do pretty good. So now I tried the whole 3 and 4, and we'll see what happens. And I think it's going to be fine. It's just got to get there. It's got to quit raining, and we get some warm days. If I had a whole week like today, it'd be no problem by Friday. But I don't think I'm going to get that. So, but that's a bad part about a dirt track. And every year or two, you're adding clay. I mean, Mother Nature takes it away, washes it away, drivers take it away. I mean, it's a never ending, like I said, I think I put some on last year too, and 1 and 2, and then this year 3 and 4. And I mean, it's a never ending project.
Fancy.
Finding clay and with no rocks in it. And, it's, but it's part of a dirt track.
Yeah, some of those rocks that I found the one time after you had just dug everything up, when I was walking there the one day, I went, holy cow, there's like a freaking boulder in here.
Yeah,
but you could just tell it was at it like it was down towards the bottom where if someone was racing that far down, they had a lot more problems than that rock. But because they have
that's the crazy thing about clay. You can go through that thing and get about every rock out of it. You can look at it and go, man, this thing is beautiful. And it rains one night, and you go out there the next day, and Mother Nature or rain pushes the rocks to the top for some reason, and then there they are again. It's like, Jesus, I don't think I did anything, but it's a never-ending battle with rocks, and unfortunately, that's Michigan clay.
Well, and it's being right by Lake Michigan, right? Like you're just right there too, and you got the sand dune stuff. You go so far down, and it's sandy, and then you just get all that. So yeah, it's a good and bad problem, right? You don't look like every other dirt track.
No.
There's some spots, and it looks all the same, right? So it's like you go to Hartford, you don't look like any other dirt track. You
especially this year, it's going to be a little different.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I told Leah, I said it, I usually come out, the day before your guys' opening. That's been my tradition the last couple of years is drive on up and, walk around, do a preview, do different things. And so Thursday is what I have on my schedule so far is to come up there and kind of do that. Cause I know the track's probably looking pretty good by that point. And it gets people hyped up. And then, I throw in fun facts. And so I definitely, like I said at the beginning, I just appreciate, you and Leah and then your staff. I mean, I've never had, a bad interaction with any of your staff ever at any point. The drivers here, they're all wonderful. So again, it's just a huge kudos to what you guys do. And I know I'm excited for your season to finally start this Friday.
Yep. And likewise, we appreciate what you guys do. I mean, you guys every Monday take your time to help all of us treks, and just don't think that it doesn't help because I don't know how many people are watching tonight, but I mean, viewers are viewers and we're getting the word out and, it takes all of us anymore to make this happen,
Oh yeah. Well, usually within about a 24-hour period, we get close. We've been averaging about 2,100, viewers, but it grows each week. You and I were just talking about that. And I don't chase metrics. I mean, we're not going to do anything that's going to, trick people into watching. We are who we are. We've been what we've been. And I think, and the feedback that I get from a lot of people, that's what they appreciate. And
you'll probably have about 5 with me watching.
Leah and Megan, they set the record. Our record, and we're 12 episodes, but they had 5,000 something. It was between the two of them. I'm like, man, we just need them every week. But I mean, no, overall, like I said, it's just we've been really purposeful about. Let's branch out to everybody, because there's some podcasts you're not going to get, a night of destruction racer on there. You're not going to get a front wheel drive racer on there. You're certainly not going to get someone who, is mid pack racing. I mean, it's just winners, and more winners. And that's okay. That works for some people that, that's never been my philosophy. It's like, let's branch out. Let's impact as many people as we can, get on as many people as we can. And we've had a pretty diverse, offering so far. So, again, that's where I appreciate like you coming on, doing that. And obviously when Leah, she's come on twice now, she was on last Thursday, but it's like, how can we help Hartford promote that out there, get that out there? Cause it's a gem, if someone hasn't been there yet. And even if dirt track racing's not your thing, give it a shot, because again, 13 years too, just to own a track, that's, there's not a lot of people around anymore who are getting that high. So, in terms of ownership years. So again, just huge kudos to what you guys do. Based on the comment section, you have a lot of people who appreciate what you do. So Buju, is there anything else that you're thinking of?
No, sir. I think we covered everything.
All right. Well, again, Tim, I know we kept you longer, but I that way you got work to do, right? So again, it's this Friday. Gates open at 5.
Yeah.
5. Yep. And do you still have the fan pit zone this year like you have in the past?
We probably will not.
Well,
I don't know. I'll have to talk to the boss and see what she says, but we haven't done that for a couple years.
Okay.
It was exciting at first, but then I don't know, it just kind of lost its luster. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, maybe get people hanging out when they're not supposed to either, and that insurance then calls. So it's like, hey, but, so gates open at 5, racing starts at 7:30. It's, cars go out for a hot lap session. I know Great Lakes will have an engine heat, they'll do their engine heats and they'll go out for their single car qualifying is usually what they do. Your other classes do group qualifying. but again, it's a pretty quick show, and I know when I'm driving up to Kalamazoo, I will see all the Great Lakes, haulers. I know when Great Lakes is at Hartford because I see them on the other side of the highway, and go in the opposite direction. It's like a convoy. I always tell Barry, it's like a
Right.
whole
I'm
crew.
going this way, they're going this way.
Yep. And so I'm like, I know when Great Lakes are at Hartford because I see all the trailers, and they definitely don't look like you could put a lawnmower in them. So they definitely, those sprint cars stand out. But again, that's this Friday, and it's is it an $18? I should know this. $20 ticket for sprint cars, and then Super Troopers will be there. And I know Russell's just announced today. Johnny Russell did a video where you guys have your Super Trooper Showdown thing. May 14th. And then
next weekend. Yep.
So May 14th is the Super Trooper Showdown at Hartford, and then in conjunction with M40, everyone's going over to M40 on the 15th, that Saturday, for another showdown for the Super Troopers. So do you want to talk a little bit about that before we let you go?
We're trying to iron out the details. I mean, I know we kind of want to do a challenge between the Hartford drivers and the M40 drivers and kind of have a traveling trophy or something like that. And we're trying to figure out exactly how much we want to throw a little extra money at it, that, maybe the top 5 or something between both nights, gets a bonus or something. So I know M40's really came up with a lot of cool stuff, and we'll probably copy some of that thanks to Megan and them. But I mean, they're doing like the Farber fries, and they're really going off on all the Super Trooper stuff, you know what I mean, from that movie, So we're gonna try to make it a fun weekend, and I hope some of the asphalt guys come and try Hartford. And I've talked to some of my guys. They say they're gonna try to go over there, and try asphalt, So just trying to give them a little something special, Their car count at M40 is really getting good. I mean, I think they had 17 or 18 the last time they raced or something. So that's good to see, that it's growing. So, but it's, once again, I wish these guys would come both ways. All you gotta do is, well, you really don't even have to change tires, but you just, if you want to, just change tires and come racing on dirt, and go, likewise. But I think once again, it goes back to the once a week racing. You know what I mean, guys? It's tough to do 2 nights, anymore. So,
well, I know Rowdy, who Bougier's really great friends with and all that. Ronnie Holloway, he came up to Hartford last year for the Nightmare, and he raced that. That's his first time on dirt, and he had a blast, if I remember right. I think he said he's coming more as he can. So, but I know we've kind of talked about that when Drew and I were doing, when we were preparing, and I did that big sponsorship for the show on April 11th. I said, where can you find Crown Vics? Hartford, they have the most right now, but M40 out of the gate, they've had 17, and then they had 22 the last time, and that was the most, and so they beat my record. And but that was exciting to see, because again, there's a lot of Crown Vics, but there's not a lot. You just have to go where they are, and between you and Jones is where they are. So there's just they're right there's probably close to 30, because you have on average about 20
to 24, depending on
And I know Zelmers are huge into that. I know Rachel has been on here, and again, huge shout out to Zelmers. I know they do a lot for Hartford, and then obviously they're Lakeshore Auto Body Shop's not too far around from me, around the corner, so I get to see the Crown Vics anytime I go into Stevensville. I don't make the drive as much anymore now that I don't work at the school, but that's where it's like you see all the Zelmer Crown Vics. So I'm sure with race season coming up, they're probably getting ready to park along there right behind Al Stockman Stadium. But again, I know Zelmer's do a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a shout out to all our drivers. We just have a good group of guys. Cyberstocks, Super Troopers. I mean, our guy, these Super Trooper guys have been poking fun at each other all winter, on and off, digging each other and whatever. I said, oh boy, the first race is going to be interesting. But and the Cyber guys too. We just have a good group of guys at Hartford. I mean, if your car breaks, the guy next to you is going to help you, even if he's racing against you. We got a good group out there, and it has been that way for 13 years. The mod guys and the late mod. I mean, we've been blessed with good racers and guys that have the right idea about racing. So that's really nice. That's helped complete the package of Hartford Speedway. With our staff and whatever. So.
The vibes. It's just all vibes. And you feel it. Like I said, when I was an outsider in 2022 coming for the first time, I mean, I knew of you because of Mom, right? You and Mom had you worked together a lot when she was doing embroidery and screen printing and all that. And so you know, I knew of you and all that kind of deal. So I had that background, but, you know, just from that day one, you know, it was that. And when I came back the following week, Chris Harry was the first one to come and talk with me again and say, man, what you did last week was just so awesome. And having the videos of Hartford and all that. And so, you know, but everybody, it's so great to be back at Hartford anytime I get there, because it's just, you get that vibe, and it's like, you don't find that vibe in a lot of, I mean, every track has their own vibe, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
you know, it's just, Leah said it best a few weeks ago. You guys are like the Disneyland of, you know, racetracks. And again, you know, everyone just seems to have a blast when they're there and when they leave. And I think from that point, you know, when you have a lot of loyal fans, a lot of loyal people, again, it just speaks, you know, you can't, as you said, you can't please everybody, but the fact that in 13 years you've pleased the majority of people, that again, that says a lot, because that doesn't, you know, that doesn't happen everywhere. But any last words that you have for anybody? Because like I said, I know we've kept you way longer than.
I just want to tell you guys thank you again, and for all you guys do, and all these guys that are doing this kind of stuff. You know, anymore with the limited amount of advertising options that we have, I mean, it takes all this anymore. You know, you guys and the drivers and the track and the sponsors, and you know, it takes all this to make these racetracks run anymore. You know, and I don't think a lot of people understand that, but I do. You know what I mean? And you know, it takes drivers to help get their coworkers to come out and watch and whatever. You know, it used to be kind of an easy deal. You know, fans just came and the drivers were there, and anymore, like I said, you're limited to about Facebook for advertising. There's hardly a newspaper around here anymore, and the radio station, you know, and hardly anybody listens to the radio. They're all streaming stuff and what I mean. So we're so limited on what we can do anymore that every Monday night when you guys are on talking about tracks or whatever, at least it's helping all of us, you know, not just me or whoever, but you know, it's keeping it going, you know. So I appreciate that, and I realize that what you guys are doing, and I think it's great. So thank you very much.
Well, no, definitely thank you, and that's why, you know, when Bougie and I came up with the Thursday idea too, it's like, what's one more thing we can do,
right?
You know, just to help. And because I know Bougie, like myself and like a lot of race fans, right, he's super passionate about this too. And with his Bullring Chronicles, he's highlighted tracks that have gone, you know, in the years past, and you know, and some tracks that are, you know, coming back from life, and those that are succeeding. And you know, but he could probably create a whole season on tracks that are lost, right? So you know, that's the unfortunate part. It's like, we got to all do our part. You know, it's so easy to go to Facebook and complain about something or be upset, but at the end of the day, you know, there was a change in the finish at New Paris over the weekend that, you know, I could have posted a clip that I guarantee would have had hundreds of reactions. It would have had hundreds of comments and probably as many shares. But, you know, I always tell people, I always think, you know, at the end of the day, that cost analysis, right? Like, oh yeah, sure, maybe I can make like some money, my favorite nickname, like some money on this, and I'd get all the likes and, you know, and make some money on social media, but at what cost to do that? It wouldn't be fair to either of the drivers, because, you know, they're just hard racing, right? That's not fair to them. And I know Bougie and I would talk about this more after, but you know, that you got to be smart about that, because, you know, some people say, well, at least they're talking about you. Yeah, not in that way though. You know, we don't want that. So that's where we want to do our part of how can we help get people there, you know, make it an experience. That's why I did that hype video at the beginning. If people missed it, go back and watch the music video. It highlights a lot of different things you can experience at Hartford just this season. So again,
I always say negativity breeds negativity, and as soon as that door is opened, then it's all then here we go. You know what I mean? So we always try not to even open that door.
Sure.
So again, I appreciate you and Leah and everyone at Hartford. So like I said, I know we've kept you, and Leah held the fort down at least. So and Timmy made his debut last week. You know,
I know we'll see you this summer, but Bougie, come see us sometime.
Yes, sir. I'll be up there. I'll be up there.
Yeah, need
to try them chicken strips.
You're this big.
Yeah.
So again, Tim, we'll let you go. But other than that, thank you so much. And
yeah,
you know, if you ever wanted, if maybe we should try to get you back on before World of Outlaws, just to do one more plug for World of Outlaws. Maybe Bougie, remind me that the Thursday before June 5th. That way we can
no rain this week. That's all I can ask of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll try. I do our rain dance. Everybody do a rain dance. But other than that, Tim, again, I know you got a lot of track prep ahead this week. So good luck with everything and have a great show on Friday.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, again, that was, I appreciate like our full episodes where we have, 2-3 guests, but then I always like episodes like this, like what we've had with Ron, where we can let it breathe a little bit. We can cover a lot of different topics. And so, so that's where, I definitely appreciate Tim coming out, because we've got to talk a little bit about his racing career and how he got started. And then we got to talk a lot about, what it's like to own a track and the different challenges, that they have. And so what do you think?
I mean, for me, being someone who just last year kind of really, really got into the dirt side of this stuff, it's interesting to learn of the challenges that a dirt owner has versus an asphalt owner with the track prep and sanctioning bodies with IMCA and UMP and all that. So yeah, I learned a lot tonight. I thought that was a really interesting interview. I'm glad Tim came on.
Oh, and that's where, we've now had Russells on. We've had Leah and Tim. We had Eric, with MCR Dwarf. Then we had Drew with the Midwest Truck Series. We've really been able to balance it out. Obviously, Drew Jack with National Compacts, Dirt Compacts. So
Ira Saunders promoter too.
Ira Saunders, at the beginning. So, we've really balanced it out where we've gotten, a lot of people on here. New Paris, Christian Tracy. So, we've hit most of the tracks in the area so far. So, that's something that, again, I appreciate, Tim being able to come on, because, this is race week for them. So, it's fun to hear. And you heard 20 hours of track prep, and with the rain, it might be even a little bit more than that this week, depending on how much rain they get. But yeah, that's something.
I mean, just think about that as, squeezing an extra 20 hours in your life just to get the track prepared every week. And that's not even counting race day and cleanup. That's just the track prep. So that threw me for a loop.
And we didn't ask how many gallons of water, which now that we're talking about it, we could have asked that, but I know Chris Harry was on here, and he still might be on here. So Chris could tell us if he's still on here. I know he's a pretty loyal listener. How many on average? It's like thousands and thousands of thousands of gallons of water that they put on. I think the one week it was like, and I could be way wrong on this, but I want to say it was like 50,000 gallons of water that they put on the track. And I want to say it was a really dry spell for us. And I'm like, 50,000. It's not like a data center, but plus the fuel to go in those vehicles to go around the track, 150 times to get it prepped. So So other than that, I know it's going to be a short show. People might be a little surprised, but we're going to end not too long from now. So next week we have a packed episode where we'll probably be going again close to 9, because with Brian Kuseva, he's Illinois time. So
yes, sir.
Him coming on at 8:00 is 7 his time. So definitely, I hope a lot of the Grundy people will join next week, as 40,000 gallons is what he said on a bad week. So he's not far off when I said 50,000, but we'll have Brian Kuseva, so he'll be in the 8:00 hour. So let's talk a little bit about New Paris, because you and I were both at New Paris, and I want to give a huge shout out, and I'll let you do your things too, but I want to give a huge shout out to Chris and Tracy for gambling it. I promise you, it was not a financial success for them. They knew that. They even trimmed $5 off the ticket, to help, and I'll say the crowd filled in nice. After 5, it did come in, and I was worried during qualifying. And with the camera, I was doing super tight shots, because that's the last thing I wanted, is to look in the comment section. I was kind of in the mood on Saturday, by the way. So, I don't know. Nothing that I had planned went the way that is expected. So I was already in a mood and frustrated with just a lot. And so I'm like, okay, some smart ass is going to get on here and say, where's the fans? And nobody has done that.
No, I haven't had it either. So, yeah.
Now, car count, someone did do that because they think they're smart when they do that too. It's like, okay, where's your car then? But anyways, I know that's the easy response, but so I was doing tight shots on the front stretch, because that's like, this is the last damn thing I want right now. Someone to get on here and say, where's the fans? Because I'm already in the mood, and I'll just block them. I don't care at that point. Because it's like, just, we could have shut down. We could have been done today, and like everyone else. And so, the one class that we were surprised at was the street stock car count. Everyone was kind of talking about that. I had predicted, so I was correct on. I was one off on the modifieds. I was correct on the late models. I was one too high on the modifieds. But I know someone who was coming who ended up engine issues. So I would have been correct if they had come. And they would have brought extra car. So I would have been one off, but underneath my prediction. Like they would have been over it. But Street Stocks, I thought we were going to get close to 27. And when we had 17, I'm like, it's still good 17. There's a lot of great racing, but I'm like, man, like, it just, where are you all? But, and I get it. Cost, right? Cost,
cost, early season. I mean, Evan Verdine said on the show a few weeks ago, local guys not always the fastest to get ready. It's still May. It was May 2nd. So early in the season, cold temperatures. I mean, I said on the show Thursday, I'd be surprised if we didn't have a B feature, and we did not. So I guess I'm surprised. But
yeah, I mean, I knew we would probably, if there was any classes that were going to have a B, it would have been the modifieds, because you just never know. There's a lot of them that are homeless, but I think that's impacted some of them getting ready because they don't have an Ohio show to get ready for yet. And then I thought that group, and then obviously I thought Street Stocks. You know, the limited lates, even if you go to M40 and you go to Kalamazoo, it's not often you're going to get a B feature. So you just kind of know the number you're going to get. But Street Stocks, when I pulled in, I got there about 12:40, and I went, I went. This
and I was expecting. And there's a lot of the new Paris regulars that are missing too, right? You had no Schlebaugh, no Todd Hall. The Hannahs weren't there, so
Todd was there. He was
not raced.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Right.
Yeah, but Todd was there. He was cranking on the wheels and all that. But
gotcha.
Because he just sold it. Was it sold a car or bought a car? I can't remember which way. When I think he sold a car and or maybe just bought a car. I whatever. It was a car and it was exchanged to somebody's hands. But I think it was him selling it. And but yeah, he was there with Logan Maynard. So yeah, he didn't have the 4 out there, but he was there.
Right. Yeah. And before we get too far off track, I also want to shout out Chris and Tracy for putting on the show, because from the bottom of Lake Erie to at least Kokomo, Indiana, the only show running was the new Paris Speedway. So big shout out to them for rolling the dice and putting on a show for the fans. And we were in and out less than 2 hours, I think it was, before the sun dropped and the temperatures went down. I thought it was great. I've only seen one person complain, and that person rightfully got their lashings. So I'm not going to pile on, but I thought
for them.
No, it did not. So yeah, my hat's off to Chris and Tracy. We were very appreciative. We were legitimately talking in the car on the way home. It was like, that was awesome. But the no heat races was great. In and out. We didn't get cold. And I also want to shout out, I talked about the deep fried Uncrustable at M40 last week. The fried Oreos at New Paris might be right up there. They're on par, brother.
Well, they have Twix now. I want to say they have fried Twix and fried Snickers, or maybe they change them out. But Tracy, they always bring me food to the roof, even though they make fun of me because they know I'm not going to eat it at the track anyways. I don't eat at a track. Once I get going, I just don't eat.
Yeah, we're opposite on that one, my brother.
Like if you ask me what's good at Kalamazoo, I couldn't tell you. The last time I ate at Kalamazoo was 2022. I don't eat at Kalamazoo. I don't bring money to eat at Kalamazoo either, but I don't eat at Kalamazoo. I don't have time. I run such a tight schedule with 19 cameras and making this and making that I just don't have time to stop and pause for 20 minutes to eat, or 15 or 10. Like I just don't have that time. And at Springport, I always kind of had some of that time that I could do that with, but because of the way they stretch everything out, that helped. But at New Paris, they'll bring me, food to the roof, and then they'll go, well, we know you won't eat it. You'll have it at the end of the night anyways. And they, so like their burgers are really good. If you've not tried their burgers, the
one thing in my life that I may consider myself an expert on is racetrack concession food. We could do a podcast on maybe just concession.
That should be a series, but
could be.
I mean, some people get a lot of money doing that. So, some people now play for the Savannah Bananas, who are experts in MLB food. So, you could go do that, and who knows, you might end up on ESPN just like that.
What a dream! I'll go back to 300 pounds if I. I'll put all the weight back on.
You put a lot of work for that, but other than that, I mean, between the concession food and shout out to Chris and Tracy, the race pretty good.
The modified race. So if I'm being honest, going into the weekend, the race I would have least been excited for would have been the modified race, and that was the race of the weekend. I mean, no dig on the other two; those were great races too. But the modified race was incredible. Some controversy at the end. You can watch the video and decide for yourself. But
Yeah.
it was a great race nonetheless. Awesome race.
Well, like I said, I had a lot of people asking me. I got a lot of messages, like personal message, saying, "Why didn't you post that? Why didn't you post that? Why didn't you post that?" And I had permission from the race director because I was in the tower getting the poker chips to take them down between and then bring them back. So I was between the one race, and they asked me what I saw from the roof, and I got the explanation. And the way that it was explained to me is, I thought and why they called it that way, and it wasn't even but I wasn't wrong. It's just it was the continuation of. So it's almost like if you think of the NFL and they talk about a catch and they say the continuation, it's kind of one of those. Is the continuation of, and then how you have like A, B, C, D, E, and that whole scenario from the backstretch to turn 4 X. And so they said if you post explanation, and I turned and I can't say the word on air right now, but I said, do you want MF'd? Because I already knew. I knew if I posted that, it would be a nightmare. And Crasher is on here, and Crasher had that at M40. He had something that he posted in a Crown Vic race, and it went all over the place. I guarantee it would have went all over. But who's that fair to? It's not fair to the Pressler crew whatsoever. They already have people who hate them. They don't need help. In fact, my board, I go to their pit stop or pit slab area every race that I see them, and I go, "You suck," and I say that's a free spot, and they know I'm doing it jokingly, because then we'll have a 10-minute conversation after that. So, but I go, I'm just going to get it off the bingo board today, so I count that the free space. So that's kind of like my hello to them, is just so you know, you suck, and then like I said, we have a conversation after that and shoot the breeze, and I enjoy that. And I do that with a lot of drivers, right? Not saying you suck, but you have different things you do with different drivers. So then, and that wouldn't be fair to the Gatton crew either. They don't need to see that. They don't, because I know if I post it on Facebook,
it doesn't need to be between Facebook. I mean, it's between the 32 and the 89. They can figure it out if they need to figure it out. They don't need our input at all.
And I knew what would happen, right? So I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I've had numerous people ask, and I said it will be in the full program, and it will be in Gatton's onboard camera. So you can see from 2 spots, because obviously with the white flag getting ready to come out, I was on them, because they were battling the whole time. And that's where I always remind people too, if there's a battle up front, I'm not going to move around the track as much, because I tried to get every driver in at least.
And it was a great race up front too.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if they're battling up front, I'm not going to move from that, right? And so I feel bad when I don't get other drivers in there, because like Carter Trudgeon, I recruited him all the way from Corrigan Oil area, and he made the long trip down and had different things not go his way, but he got out on the track and did well. So anyways, so that's why I didn't post that. But like I said, it's in the full program, and it's in Gatton's video. And then earlier, I've been doing my advertising where I post like a clip of the onboards to help promote the drivers. And of course, now that I have all of our sponsors, Federated Auto Parts, LH Detailing, Sabrina BB Photography, for the onboards, I want to promote them. That's part of the package, is you sponsor a camera, you get promotion. And so that's something that then, someone said, well, where's the rest of it? You can watch it in the video. I'm not posting it. And this is why, because again, it's like, I might make a lot of money that way. But as Matt Frazier said a few weeks ago, when we were talking about something, outlaw super late model driver, he said, but that's not what you do. And that's not how you are. I'm like, I'm so glad that people see that, and there are times that I post things that I kind of think back and go, I was 51-49 on that. I probably should have been 50-50 and decided not to, but it's kind of one of those, close. So, Bill Russell, who I haven't seen on tonight, that's actually surprising. Usually he's on. But, Bill Russell and I got to talk, and he even pointed out, he said, well, you haven't been posting as much this year anyways. And I said, well, I just really try, I'm trying to be more mindful of, I take a percentage of the night. I count the laps per the night, and I don't generally post heat race highlights anyways, because that's just it's heat racing, right? And unless there's something really cool, like a first win and it's big or whatever, but otherwise I just focus on the features. And I count the laps, and I go, okay, this is the percentage, and I really try to keep it a low percentage for the night. anyways, because I don't ever want a track to come to me saying you're posting too much. But I also know Facebook wants certain, a certain length too. So I really, victory laps will always be about 1.5 to 2 minutes, depending on how long it takes them to get out for victory lane. That's the long part. Otherwise, I try to stay under a minute or less, for a lot of things. But yeah, that's why I didn't post that. But I still thought the race, I was hoping that people wouldn't let that determine whether they like the race or not, because that was a fun modified race.
And it shouldn't. I mean, that's racing. They were racing hard for the lead. Somebody got turned. I mean, yellow came in. It sucks. We'd rather see them come to the checkered and battle it out all the way, but that's part of the game. You know what I mean?
Yep. And I'm sure, if people think about it, I'm sure one party has benefited from calls in the past and another party hasn't. Other than that, this party, right? So at the end of the day, like, everyone understands that it's racing and things happen. And it is what it is. I don't think we need to go further than that, other than I hope that people watch the race and appreciate what those two did. They put on a heck of a race. The modifieds in general, I mean, they went green until that moment. Straight stocks, it was kind of similar to the week before. They had a cup. I know it's storming here.
The storms have arrived in South Bend.
Oh yeah, there's lightning nonstop here. That's why we won't be on much longer. But I knew we want to talk about this. But I thought the straight stock race, that one was also, they had a bumpy start, kind of like the week before. It's like a bumpy start, but then once they got going, there's a lot of battles all over.
Yeah, and obviously definitely the shout out to Jeff Gannis. I mean, back free stock and limiteds and back-to-back weeks at two different tracks, very impressive. But yeah, I think I counted at during pace laps of the street stock race, and there was at least 21 championships on the track in a 17-car field. So it might not have been the biggest field in the world, but as you mentioned earlier, very quality.
Well, and if you start adding up future wins, I mean, you had Alex Sexton there, who's not been a champion in the street stocks yet, but he has 2 feature wins, and you start doing all that kind of stuff, and again, as I was telling Taylor Sexton, her and I were talking because Alex was coming down, and I was giving my words of motivation. I'm like, he races at Kalamazoo every Friday. There's not a lot of places that you can get the quality of talent that we have at Kalamazoo, where even our slower drivers, if you call them that, are, they go to other tracks and they have a shot at winning, right? Like it's the competition level at Kalamazoo week in and week out, because of where Kalamazoo is located between the border and where it is in Michigan, right? That you could pull cars from everywhere. And I know that's a good one. Good Thunder Boom. And I know the late model class this week at Kalamazoo is building up. So I think, we're going to have a lot of cars from a lot of places. And so that street stock race, I mean, you didn't get 27 or whatever, what we thought possible, but those 17 were no slouches whatsoever. And, I was really surprised when the Bozels pulled in. I'm like, man, this is going to be a good day.
Yeah, that's another sign of early season, is how many mechanical issues there were throughout. There was a lot of pull-offs in all 3 classes.
Yes. Well, in the cold, right? Like, I know
definitely.
People talk about that too, and but no, I thought that, and then I thought the late model race was fun too, and watching. Bryce had his super shoe car from 2022 down there. It's not his weekly car, but he was hanging up there too, and he didn't race New Paris too often. In fact, that might have been his first official time, or if not second time, because I think he raced the Reveal, the Hammer, and the Outlaw Super last year, but he's, at least in my time of covering, he's not been in the limited there, so he got to race with that group.
And that's a race where Gannis just got through the field so quick that, I mean, if Bryce or Bug got out front first, that race would have been different. But, I mean, Gannis was lightning quick through the field. That's experience.
Yep. So, again, it's kudos to New Paris for giving it a shot, because, again, they didn't have to. They could have pulled the plug. And,
yes, absolutely.
And that's just what I hope fans remember, is that when a track gives it a shot, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm just taking a guess, though, that knowing what the payout was, if you do the math, right? And, across the number of cars, and that most teams probably brought about 2 to 3 people, maybe.
And the pits would have been less. I mean, the people bringing less in the pits just because of the cold, too, and just like the stand.
Yep. So it's like, you add that up, it's probably not a financial win, but you know, they still did it. So and lowered costs at the same time for
Yes.
general admission because of no heat. So but that's where, you know, this Friday or this Saturday back to normal. You got all 4 classes. Oh, there's a good lightning strike. But you have all all 4 classes will be back. I'm excited to see that 4-cylinder again. But that's for Thursday's conversation.
Yes, sir.
But we have a lot of doubleheader. There's, if you like Night of Destructions, M40 this Sunday has their Day of Reckoning, and they're doing a new twist on the Night Rider. So the Johnny Russell made a video about that. So if you haven't seen that, go check out. That must be Severe Thunderstorm Warning.
Uh-oh.
Yep, Severe Thunderstorm Warning. So yeah, that's why I figure we'll probably end. So if power goes out, all of a sudden we don't end. But we'll talk all about it on Thursday. But we have a lot. I mean, more tracks are coming online now. So I think pretty much everyone in our area is racing as of this weekend. So it'll give us a lot to talk about on Thursday. But other than that, anything else good for the group before we beat the storm?
No, sir. Stay safe in the storms, I guess.
I mean, you see the lightning behind me, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's loud out here too.
Because Lake Michigan's just down that way, so that means it's already coming. But anyways,
I'm in my flip-flops out here. I gotta get to the house.
Again, thank you, Buju, for another great night. Obviously, this will be on Spotify, and then from Spotify, it disperses out to Apple Podcast, disperses out to Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. We'll do one more quick. Rich, next Monday at 7:05, around 7:35, Joel. And then around 8 o'clock, a little after 8 o'clock, will be Brian. So we have Indiana, Michigan, and Illinois all represented next week on the Monday Night Rewind. Don't forget to come see us this Thursday at 7 o'clock. And I was going to talk about that tonight, so I'm going to leave that up there for a second. But don't forget, I did post this earlier for the marketing special with ELH. Other than that, Buju, anything else?
No, sir.
So we'll talk more about the ELH again on Thursday. I feel like I'm shorting them, but I don't want us to get cut off. So it's almost time again to turn left and go fast, because
We will see you at the races.
see you all at the races.